Happy President's Day. Notice, I got a picture of Obama. Why do I have a picture of Obama? Is it because he was the greatest president that the United States ever had? Is it because he was the most elegant, educated, sophisticated, and intelligent president we ever had? Or is it because he's black? As a Mexican, I despise Mexicans for Trump, Latinos for Trump, etc. And you know what I noticed about Mexicans for Trump, Latinos for Trump, or as I call them, pendejos for Trump? I notice that every single time that you criticize Trump, no matter if you're Mexican, if you're Latino, if you're black, if you criticize Trump, these Mexicans for Trump, these Latinos for Trump, pendejos for Trump, they never fail to bring up Obama and bash Obama. Never fails. There is something about Mexicans, Latinos in general, that voted for Trump, and even some that didn't vote for Trump, by the way. But there's something about Latinos that every single time that you criticize Trump for anything, they always bring up Obama to criticize Obama. You could be having a whole conversation, trying to argue, debate, or understand a topic regarding Trump, Trump's policies, Trump's administration, etc. And they will always bring up Obama, no matter what the topic is. If the topic is criticizing Trump. And I have learned that these sort of Latinos, they never bring up, a Clinton, a George Bush, or any other president ever. But they always bring up Obama. And every single time that they bring up Obama is to criticize him. And I know for a fact that every single one of you watching that has ever entered a debate or some form of argument or discussion with any of these Latinos that voted for Trump, you know that they always bring up Obama. They never bring up any other president. And if they do bring up another president, is to praise them, just like they praise Trump. And because I, as a Mexican, I've identified, I acknowledge the post-colonial anti-black and anti-indigenous cultures in Latin America, practiced and performed by Latin people and or people of Latin America. You see, people of Latin America, as a collective, we have the habit and or tendency, consciously or subconsciously, to be anti-black. Anti-black in general, sure. But if you want to be a specific, anti-black American. And that's just a fact. Now, if you're wondering, how come, Ricardo? Why is this so? Well, in order to understand it, you have to understand the fact that anti-blackness exists in our cultures in Latin America. Why does it exist? Is it our original ideology or philosophy? Absolutely not. It was implemented there by white colonizers from Spain, from Italy, from France, etc. Basically, by the white people of Europe that colonized Mexico, Central and South America. You could narrow it down to the caste system. But whatever the case, the anti-blackness exists and has been existed, and it has become, although not our original ideology, it has, however, become part of our collective culture. Sure, some people, individuals like myself, have gone out of our way to detect the anti-blackness, to identify it as wrong, as problematic. And we've done our best to shed light, to expose, to address it, etc. However, as a collective of people, most of our people throughout history, since colonialism, we have preferred to be silent about it, to brush it under the rug, and to claim it doesn't exist. And what it has caused for people of Latin America, including the black people of Latin America, is to have anti-black views, such as colorism, internalized racism, and of course, Stockholm Syndrome, meaning we hate our dark complexion, we hate our non-Eurocentric features. That's the colorism, that's the internalized racism. And then we turn around and practice the Stockholm Syndrome, which, of course, is to have children with white people in hopes to have light-skinned children, as well as worship white people, or at least seek, desire, and develop white alignment and white proximity. We collectively, people of Latin America, we strive to whiten ourselves. And of course, you could see it in cultural and ethnic assimilation. For example, racially identifying ourselves as white on paper, proudly speaking languages of white people, attempting to distance ourselves from our original indigenous languages, and also proudly name ourselves and name our children with European names, and avoid at all costs to name ourselves and our children with indigenous names. And this is the condition of all people in Latin America, excluding the isolated indigenous tribes. Now that's just me giving you a glimpse of the origin, the root of the problem. And we have also been conditioned to become a people that have developed pride in a sense of honor and being servants. For example, my whole life being around Latin people, all kinds of Latin people. I'm talking about Latin people of any national background. One thing that we all share in common as Latin people, despite the nationality, is the anti-blackness, specifically anti-black American. For example, since I was a little kid all the way to my adulthood, one of the complaints that Latin people in general had about black American people is this.
You don't know much about Dominicans. I think you should do your homework before you talk about Dominicans. I see in a video that you talk about we deporting people because they're black. And I used to live in Harlem, so I have a lot of black friends there. And let me tell you something. They will stay home smoking pot. So if you get the opportunity and you get the chance and the government is paying you a loan so you could go to school, why they don't go to school? I mean, you cannot keep feeling as a victim when you have a chance to grow, to become better. Don't tell me the Spanish are going to come from Dominican and go over there, not even speaking English, and they're going to progress. They're going to buy a bodega. And you, American, who speak English and who have all the chances on the world, you can make it.
That's right. Black Americans are lazy. When we, people of Latin America, come to this country, we work and we work hard. We're so proud of being slaves for minimum wage and sometimes even less than minimum wage. We come here and bust our asses, showing the white massa that you see, we are good people, unlike them over there, those negros over there. Those negros over there, all they do is smoke and be lazy. That complaint that I've always heard my whole life from Latinos that claim that black people, they're just lazy, etc. Meanwhile, we come here and work hard. Well, another thing that I heard a lot my whole life is every single time that a black person would drive a beautiful, luxurious vehicle or live in a very expensive neighborhood and own a big old house and something of that nature, these same people would express jealousy and resentment even. Like, how those lazy people afford that? They don't even work hard. I bet you they got it by doing illegal things. I heard this my whole life. They're lazy, they're criminals, and when they have something good, when they could afford something that we can't, they don't even work. How are they able to afford that? I bet you they did something illegal. Oh, Ricardo, wait a minute. What has all this got to do with President's Day and Obama? Here comes a black president. How did this black guy become a president of the United States when they're lazy? Meanwhile, we come here and work hard. We should have been the ones to have a president of color that was of our demographic. Why do they get to be the first non-white president when we're the ones that work hard and they're just lazy? How they manage to do that? When you take in consideration the anti-blackness, the history of Latin American countries, a history of literally attempting to erase the black population from Latin American countries like Argentina. If you don't know what I'm talking about, do a little research on the history of Argentina regarding the black population, and you will understand what I'm talking about. But I'll give you a brief taste. Latin American countries like Argentina, like Mexico, like Chile, like Dominican Republic, they have gone out of their way to literally bring white European people in the boatloads to these countries to increase the white population, but also to encourage as well as give these non-white people white options to have children with in attempts to whiten and or help these people to whiten their next generation. Kind of like what Trump is doing, attempting to deport brown people while at the same time bringing in white South Africans and white Ukrainians. That's not a new concept. Latin America has been practicing this for a long time. The country of Argentina, for example, has literally succeeded in erasing the black population while at the same time bringing over white Europeans. And even when Germany lost the war, do you want to know what happened to the remaining surviving Nazis? Argentina, Chile grabbed them and took them in. And you could even go to Chile and Argentina and you literally find communities specifically built by those surviving Nazis where they are allowed to grow and develop with their ideologies in those countries. But that's another story for another day. This video is about President's Day because whether you like or dislike Obama as a president, me as a Mexican, it's important to go out of my way to show that even though I come from Latin America, from a people that have been colonized and conditioned to be anti-black, it is very, very important for me to go out of my way and say, not all of us are anti-black. Some of us, although few, but some of us question the anti-blackness and anti-indigeneity, and we stand up against it. Because even if you are black, and you yourself say, I don't like Obama, Ricardo, well, that's great. But that's not the argument, and that's not the point. The point is, every single time that we criticize a white president, in this particular case, Trump, since that's our current president, Latinos cannot help without even Obama being the topic, they bring him up anyway and criticize him. And that is very, very telling of how anti-black these people are. That when we are criticizing literally an openly white supremacist, not only are you defending the white supremacist that is racist and wants to pass racist policies against you, you still turn around and praise him and at the same time grab the only one black president and bash him. That's very telling. So today in President's Day, I give my respect to Barack Obama and Michelle Obama.